Hey everybody, welcome to another battle report. This is battle report number 18. I'm a little bit under the weather today, not feeling so great, so recording this from my bedroom, which is why you see my wife's lovely bedroom art. She actually made it that herself because she's awesome like that. So battle report 18 had somebody over at my house. My Brotherhood army versus some ogres. And the scenario that we played, it's loot. So here's our setup. I had a hard time getting a good sky view of the battlefield. Limited space in my dining room, so sorry for the chandelier in the picture there and kind of the funny angle. But this was our setup for loot. So you've got 3 counters in the middle of the board. If a unit touches one of those counters at the end of their move, they can pick it up. And then if they get killed from shooting, they just drop it wherever they are. If they get killed in melee, then whoever kills them can take the loot counter onto that new unit. So it's basically just whoever has the most loot counters at the end of the game. So my Brotherhood army is on the bottom half of the board. We've got ogres across, moving left to right for deployment. Got my eagles on the far left side. That is a Order of the Forsaken, the Flying Knights. Then I've got an Order of the Abyssal Hunt next to them. And I've got 2 regiments of Foot Knights, Order of the Brotherhood. And next to them is my Horde of Martyrs. Hoping this is the last time I'll be subbing in Spearmen for my Martyrs. Working on some new models for that unit as well as the Foot Knights and one of my other Knight units. Behind the Martyr Horde is a Devoted with the Martyr's Prayer and an Inspiring Talisman. And so right there, those 3 units and the Devoted make up the formation for the Brotherhood that gives them all Fearless and Iron Resolve. And it also gives the Devoted Bane Chant, which is kind of hard to come by in the Brotherhood army, so really awesome formation for us. To the right of the Horde is a Forsaken Beast, and I gave him the upgrade of Ensnare. So he's a good unit to hold a flank, or to just stop a unit in its tracks. Then to the right of him in the forest, my Griffin models, which is another Order of the Forsaken, Flying Knights. And then in the bottom right, you've got Order of Redemption. Those are the Elite Knights that have regeneration and are inspiring. To my knowledge, they're the only unit in the game that has inspiring. And then you can't see it, but down further in the bottom right, my picture's in the way here, is Villain Reconnoiterers. I've got some Lion models that are light cavalry, speed 9, and nimble. And then also my Exemplar Forsaker, which is my general of the army. He's a monster, has fly, and inspiring, and a bunch of other goodies. On the other side of the board, see if I can remember everything here. Again, starting left to right, you've got a Horde of Siege Breakers. I believe it's a horde, might just be a regiment. And then in the forest, or just behind the forest, is a Horde of Hunters. They have Pathfinder and Ensnare. And then to the right of them, in the front, there are 2 regiments of Boomers and a Giant in between them. And then behind those 3 units is a Legion of Ogre Warriors. To the right of that is a Horde of Boomers. No. Braves. Those are Braves, sorry. Yeah, that's a Horde of Braves, and then a Horde of Boomers in the water next to them with a Warlock in between. Yeah, that's right. So I won. No, he won first turn, but I forgot to take a picture until I win. So you can see his Giant rushed up, grabbed a loot counter. That's going to be hard to get away from him. On the far left, you've got that horde of siege breakers. and that's a tough unit, and they're threatening a loot counter there, but I was able to move my Eagles up around to his flank. And then his center of the board there, the Boomer regiments and the Legion are marching forward. He's also got a standard bearer back there, I forgot to mention. And everybody else moving forward. But you can see with the flying units and the knights, I'm already getting him surrounded, turn 1. So all my stuff's moving up. I'm staying out of range of the giant. Don't want him to be able to get a charge off on me. I probably, after thinking about it, I probably should have just moved my Martyr Horde straight up, let the giant charge. They can take a charge, hopefully anyway, and then maybe I can counterattack. But that's what we did here. I forgot to mention also on my side, on the far left, next to my Order of the Abyssal Hunt Knights, in front of them is Danor the Wizard. He's a legendary character available through Clash of Kings, and he's pretty boss. He's available to a lot of the good armies. He's got 5 spells, and he can cast each one of them every turn. No one of them is anything too amazing. It's like Fireball 4, Lightning 2, Heal 2, Wind Blast 3, and Bane Chant 2, and he's 100 points. But he's got some item that lets him cast every one of those spells every turn, and that's just pretty awesome. So, and like I said before, it's hard to get Bane Chant in the Brotherhood, so that was another way to get that. You can also use the Loot of Insatiable Darkness, but you know, I've gotten it from these 2 other ways, so I'm good with that. You can see my lions ran out front on the right side, screening my other knights, and then my general just hopped right up on the hill and picked up a loot counter. What I forgot about that is that when you pick up a loot counter, you lose fly and your speed goes down to 5. So we'll see how that plays out. So in his turn, he does some damage. On that right side, he charged his Braves forward, and they took out the Lions, no problem. I like cavalry. That's what they were there for. So now I can get a counter charge. He killed the Lions and then went d6 forward and went far enough forward that my general can no longer see him from the hill there. So that was fortunate for him. He surprised me in the middle of the table because his giant dropped the loot counter and then just turned to the right, ran off in another direction. So he's going over to help on the left side of the board there because I've got my Eagles flanking and my other knights coming in. So that one really kind of took me by surprise, and I struggle with knowing what to do with that. So that was a good move. And then he's got his Legion and other Boomer regiments moving forward. The Hunters are nicely placed in the forest. They've got Pathfinder, no problem for them. If I try to charge them, they've also got Ensnare, so that's not a very viable option. And then he took some shots. So the Boomer Horde on the right took some shots at my general on the hill with the loot counter, and he also has his Warlock there that threw some lightning bolts or something at him. So it did 5 wounds there. Another volley like that, they could take him out just like that. So that was a pretty good hit. But that's it for Ogre's turn 2. So in my turn 2, I go ahead on the right side and get some charges off on these Braves. My Elite Knights, the Order of Redemption, charge them in the front, and then my Flying Knights get a flank charge to the side of them there. It's not looking good for the Braves. My general, I forgot that I couldn't fly, so it was either drop the loot counter and try to fly and do something on his own, but I opted instead to just back up, see what happens with the Braves, and then as long as I don't get shot off in his next turn, maybe I'll do something different next turn. So I realized with my infantry in the center of the board that I shouldn't have pulled back. I was worried about the giant, and he just turned and went the other direction anyway. So I start moving my infantry up, and they've got the beast next to them there. So Legion of Ogres is an intimidating thing. I'm playing it a little bit cautiously, which is not my usual MO. On the left side of the board, my Abyssal Hunt go ahead and take a charge on the Siegebreaker Ogres. They're a 6 defense in the front. They got big shield, so I'm gonna have to hit them hard. So I also take the flank charge with my Eagles, the Order of Forsaken Flying Knights. And so, sorry for the blurry picture, but you can see those combats go well for me. I take out the Braves on the right, reposition my units, and I take out the Siegebreakers on the left and reposition those units. I've got the Hunters and the Giant looking at me right now, so we'll see how that goes. But it was good to get those Siegebreakers off the board. So yeah, he attacks back with a few things on this turn. On the right side, instead of taking some more shots with the boomers, he decides to go ahead and charge my flying knights, which is probably a good move. They're not too difficult to kill in one shot if you hit them hard enough, which ogres can certainly do. And even if you don't kill them, at least you take away fly if you just land a wound. So not a bad choice. His warlock moves up, takes a couple shots at the general, but doesn't do much there. In the center of the board, we were talking about this afterwards. He probably should have ran forward more with the ogres, and those boomers are still kind of in front of the Legion, screening them. But it turns out they're really holding the Legion up. He needs to get that Legion moving forward and get them into combat. So, but he stays back and he's able to take some shots with the boomers, and he's kind of waiting for me to charge, and then he'll countercharge with the Legion. On the left side, you can see his Hunters come out of the forest, charge my Knights, and his Giant charges my Flying Knights, the Eagles. So he kills the Eagles with the Giant. Doesn't quite kill my Knights though with his Hunters, so they bounce back. And those Knights have Fury, so they'll be able to countercharge even if they're wavered. But I think he landed a pretty good hit. I think they got like 8 wounds on him. And I made a big mistake, something I never do usually, and I didn't have any inspiring on that side of the board. I usually make sure all my units have inspiring. But I put the general on the right side at the last minute in my deployment, and I meant to put him on the left where I should have put him, because there's no inspiring over there. So if he had gotten a good roll on that nerf check, those Knights would have been gone, and I would have really been hurting on the left side. But fortunately, didn't make the roll, so they're still around and be able to hit back next turn. I've got my infantry units still standing there, so they're facing in a position where they'll be able to get a flank charge. That's good. So here we are, my turn 3. I go ahead and take that flank charge with my infantry. My Knights countercharge the Hunters, and I've got Danor the Wizard there, lending some Bane Chant heals and throwing lightning bolts and all that fun stuff. In the middle of the board, I move forward with my infantry. I decide it's time to engage. And I'm kind of set up so that if he charges my, whichever unit he charges, my other unit should be able to flank, is the idea. And I send my beast forward into the regiment of boomers next to the little castle tower thing. And again, he's got ensnare, defense 5, and a high nerve, so he can hold his own. It takes him a while to kill a unit because he's got 8 attacks hitting on 4s, but it's really hard to take him out. So I can kind of hold him up right there. So I'm only dealing with, just a couple units at a time. On the right side, the way the positioning worked out, he didn't end up killing my Flying Knights with his Boomer Horde, which was unfortunate for him. He wavered them, and I didn't get Headstrong, so they were still wavered, but I could move them back into the forest, which gave my Knights a flank charge on the Boomer Horde. And again, that's my Elite Knights. They've got 20 attacks, Thunderous Charge 2. That's not going to go well. And with my General, you can't see it, but I think he dropped... No, he still has the lead token. He went ahead and charged the Warlock, because the Warlock was in range there. And so I'm working on that Knight unit on the right, my Order of Redemption. So they didn't sit quite right on the hill, and all the Knights were falling over. I haven't made the base yet. But you can see they killed the Boomer Horde. Flank charge from them is a rough thing. And the general, the exemplar Forsaker, he killed the warlock, moved forward, still got the loot token. He's looking at the flank of the Legion now, in the center of the board. On the left side, my knights did good work, and I got the flank charge from my foot knights, my infantry, on those ogre hunters. Was able to take them out in one shot. So now I'm just looking at the giant, which is still on my mind about what am I going to do with that giant. And that's the end of my turn 3. So, ogre turn 4, giant finishes off those knights handily. He's really dominating that side of the board over there. And then he decides to finally get those boomers moving forward. In the middle of the board, he takes one of the regiments and charges my infantry. And then the other one countercharges my beast, but again, now they're probably not going to be able to take them out. It's going to take a few turns. And this is one of the difficult things about legions. So for a long time I used to play Kingdoms of Men before I switched to Brotherhood, and I always tried to get a horde of knights, and I'd give them Pathfinder, the potion of the caterpillar, give them Pathfinder, because a footprint that big on a unit, you're always going to be hitting difficult terrain. But I thought, man, that's so many attacks. With Pathfinder, I'm going to get Thunder's Charge more often than not, and it was just a really beardy unit, and I thought it'd be fun to play. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I could not get it to work. Because it's such a large unit, it's difficult to maneuver, and it's easy for your opponent to get around them and to get flank charges and other things going on. So I never got it to work. And we were talking about it with the guy that plays Ogres, and he's kind of coming to the same conclusion with this Legion of Ogre Warriors. The formation is awesome, and I think that there might be a way to make it work, but I sure couldn't get it to work with the Knights. And I was really happy when I changed to the Brotherhood, and I've loved the Brotherhood list much more, for a variety of reasons. But anyways, he's running into that problem here in the center of the board, because I've got his Boomer Regiment tied up with my Forsaken Beast, and he's right next to this blocking terrain of this castle tower. He can't go anywhere. He can't do anything. And now I've got units coming around the other side that he's got to worry about, and he's still got a bunch of units in front. So that's going to become a problem for him, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so Brotherhood turn 4. My infantry on the far left, go ahead and charge the giant, because what else am I going to do? Probably won't kill him, but maybe I can tie him up for a couple of turns. And then my other infantry foot knights countercharge the boomers. And like I said, whichever unit he charged, my other unit was going to get a flank charge. And so that works out for the martyrs. It's a lot of attacks coming in the flank. So they're probably going bye-bye. My Forsaken Beast charges again into the boomers, just whittling them down. And I'm not even worried about him taking a charge from the Legion at this point, as long as it buys time for my infantry units to finish off these other boomers and turn around and face them. And then you can see on the right side of the board, I've got 2 units of knights coming around, my elite cavalry, and then my general is now facing the rear of that Ogre Legion. So Beast is doing a fantastic job of just buying me time to get maneuvering. At the end of combat, I take care of that Boomer Regiment in the middle, reposition my martyrs, and I bounce off the giant with my infantry. No big surprises there. The really worst thing that could have happened for the Ogre player was that my beast did a few more wounds to these boomers, but didn't kill him. I just wavered him. That was the worst possible thing that could have happened. He would have really rather they just died, because then he could finally do something with that Ogre Legion. But instead they're wavered, so now he's still stuck. Nothing he can do about it, really. And I thought I had one more picture in here. Guess not. Basically what happened was I got all these flank charges from my knights, my general coming from behind, martyrs hitting in the front, and took out the Ogre Legion in one shot. So again, if any of you happen to be watching this that play legions like that, big ogre legion, or the knights horde from Kingdoms of Men, or something else like that, if you have advice or ideas about how to make those things work, I never got it to work with the knights. He's having a hard time with the ogres. Would love to hear if you have some tactics or advice that you would recommend. I think it's a great idea to have some screening units, to have some chaff. I hesitate to call ogre boomers chaff. They're hardly chaff, but they're a screening unit. It just seems like you got to get those legions in combat as soon as possible. Whatever they hit, they're going to kill. But then how many things are you going to get flanked by and whatever else? It just seems like they're really hard to make work. So if you have ideas on that, we'd love to hear it. But at any rate, the winning streak for the Brotherhood continues. Don't know how long that'll last, but I'm enjoying it while it does. So thanks for watching.